Hi, what an incredibly captivating first episode. I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to watching more. And now, to discuss the journey of documenting this story as a series, I'd love to welcome RJ Cutler, director and executive producer of Big Vape, The Rise and Fall of Juul, and Jamie Ducharme, health correspondent at Time Magazine and the author of Big Vape, The Incendiary Rise of Juul. Here to lead the conversation is Atlantic staff writer Shirley Li.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, first of all. And thank you both, Jamie and RJ, for being here to talk about your docuseries. So let's get started. Let's talk Big Vape. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe either of you vape. And yet here you are, Jamie, having written the book that this series is based on, and RJ, the filmmaker behind this series. Jamie, I want to start with you. What about the story of Juul captivated you as a journalist? Why this company? Why this product that you don't even use?
Yeah, you're correct. I don't vape. I've never smoked. I did buy a Juul when I was writing the book just to sort of know what I was talking about, and it was not for me. Did not like how I felt. But despite that, I was really drawn to this story. In my day job, I'm a health reporter at Time Magazine. I came to the story very much through the health and science lens, sort of what are the health effects of vaping, what is it doing, especially to young people who vape. And then as I did that reporting, I kept finding like new angles to it that I found interesting. I thought it was a fascinating business story. There were really interesting characters behind it. Just the money of it all was fascinating. And all of that kind of snowballed together to become the book eventually.
Yeah, and RJ, what about you? What about this story caught your attention that was maybe different from the subjects you've worked on before?
Well, it is different in a lot of ways because usually I'm making films specifically about people, and I'm drawn to the film because of a connection that I have with the person. Billie Eilish, Elton John, we meet, if there's a connection, we make a film together. In this case, there was a story that was suggested to me by my friends at Amblin, who had gotten together with Jamie to make this series, and they asked if I wanted to direct it and if we wanted to produce it. And to me, it was an opportunity to delve into what is the central narrative story of this moment, which is the unintended consequences of big tech. We live in a time where, a guy can get dumped by his girlfriend, a brilliant guy can get dumped by his girlfriend in college, go off to create a way to communicate with his friends, make a lot of money, and all of a sudden the rest of us are faced with the potential end of democracy. This is the unintended consequences of big tech. Well, here was another story that was the unintended consequences of big tech, but it was one that was also, it was rich with characters, it was rich with narrative. There's so many twists and turns coming our way. There's betrayals, there's shocks and surprises, there's crying children. It's got it all. So I was excited about it.
Yeah, you mentioned the connections that you've had to the people, the quote-unquote stars of your other films. In this, I'd love to hear your take on the visual concept for this series. You have a history of making verite films. You produced The War Room, which kind of ushered in this era of fly-on-the-wall documentary filmmaking. You've been inside the offices of Vogue to follow Anna Wintour around. You followed Billie Eilish around, so you've lived out my dream. And watched.
It was very dreamy.
I just want to know how she makes her songs. Anyway,
Watch the movie.
Can you tell me, how did you envision the visual concept for this docuseries? You're not working with a star. You're not going inside the offices of Juul. You have a lot of voices. How did you think about that?
Well, visually, you see what we envisioned. We wanted it to be visceral and experiential and emotional and graphic, and we wanted to feel like we were inside James and Adam's minds when they were conceiving of this, but we also wanted to feel like you were inside the vapor's experience when vaping. We wanted to bring Jamie's beautiful book and reporting and writing to life in as visceral and emotional a way as possible. And that's what you see. It was very graphic, and there were a lot of influences. You know, I remember being at a museum exhibit and seeing a kind of look at futurism and graphics, and that influenced what we did. Everything. Our second unit shooting, where a lot of the smoke that you see was filmed, was a big part of what we did, because the vaping experience, like I was struck in watching tonight, that somebody talked about how they loved smoking because they loved to watch the smoke. And I thought, that's part of what people love about vaping, and the ability to create that plume. Mm-hmm. And so we brought that to life. So these were all the things that we set out to do, and I think succeeded.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, I'm going to sound like a stoner, and I'm not. It's kind of like the Juul is the star. And you've got this beautiful product, and at the same time, this cacophony of voices debating what's right, what's wrong.
Well, and also the debate is a huge part of what we wanted. I mean, we end the opening sequence with somebody saying it's not black or white, it's gray. And we don't spend a lot of time with gray in our culture. And people who have even considered the story of the Juul, not you, but others, haven't spent a lot of time in the gray. But the gray is where this story exists, and if we're gonna, fortunately we're under attack, everybody. Stay calm. I think it will pass, or not.
Can't control this. Can't control this.
So we don't spend a lot of time in the gray areas, but this is a story that demands the gray area be explored, and that's what we set out to do. And thus, all the voices.
Thus, all the smoke, all the risks. Jamie, when you first met with RJ, and RJ said, I'd like to film this. I'd like to put this in terms that you're perhaps not familiar with. What were your biggest concerns about telling this story as a documentary, as a docuseries?
Well, RJ just said that we don't spend a lot of time in the gray as a culture, and honestly, that was my big concern. Just in handing my work over, to say nothing of RJ as a person, I greatly respect his work, but I was just afraid, is this going to turn into a really black or white, adaptation? I'm a little bit of a control freak. It was scary to give this thing that I'd worked so hard on to somebody else. And I said to RJ, I really want to make sure we capture the nuance of the story, because I think it's more complicated than it's often told. And he got that very clearly. I felt very confident that he and I were on the same page about that, and he did a tremendous job with it. But that was my big concern. It's just not being able to control the angle, I guess, with which it was told.
Well, for whatever you could control, what were you keen on making sure the docuseries included? Were there key figures you were really hoping to convince to come on camera? Were there those that you had to do a little bit more convincing? Could you walk us through that process of transitioning into the docuseries space?
Yeah, I mean, my white whale for the book were, of course, James and Adam. I desperately wanted to talk to them. They did not agree, unfortunately. I had interviewed them previously for Time, so I could draw on some of that, but they did not participate for the book. I think we similarly were desperate to get them in the series. Clearly that did not work either. Mm-hmm. But then from there, it was a really interesting process of trying to see who that I had interviewed for the book would be willing to go on camera. Mm-hmm. And actually a lot of people who had been willing to speak to me for a written project were not comfortable for various reasons being in the series. So I think, you can probably speak to this even more than I can, but that was a big challenge of sort of, okay, we had these voices that shaped the first narrative. Some of them are not comfortable participating now, so kind of where do we go from there? Mm-hmm. And I think RJ and his team did an incredible job of finding new voices to further enrich the story. But for me, it was always just about getting people inside Juul who really understood, what the thought process was like, what the mindset was like, who knew what and when, why certain decisions were made. That was really important to me to have that perspective.
RJ, this is a similar question, but as you were reading Jamie's reporting, what really jumped out at you that you absolutely had to include? How did you figure that out?
Well,
They're bad.
I don't want to. If the end is nigh, why bother answering, I guess, is really the question. But it's not. For me, the twist of the story is the damn thing worked, right? So you'll see in the remaining episodes all the mistakes that the company made. But as Jamie likes to distinguish between the company and the product worked. The product could be the key to solving the crisis, the global billion smoker crisis of combustible cigarettes. And that's a good thing, right? So that's the twist. Most, again, we're in the world of black and white. They marketed to children, they made it too sexy, they made it too easy to, all the things you've heard, but in the world of gray, the damn thing worked, and that was just a driving important thing for us to achieve in the series. It was very important. Also, we wanted to be inside the minds of the creators as much as possible, even though over the history of the Juul they become increasingly marginalized. What they were setting out to do and the hope inside of that was very important to me.
I want to go back to, Jamie, you mentioned that for the docuseries you had to find even more voices than perhaps you expected. Can you just talk a little bit more about that process? How does that compare to the previous documentaries you've worked on that you had to do this extra work?
Yeah, there are two things. One is I have an extraordinary team of producers, and Lindsay Pinnell, who is our showrunner, and her team just did. Rachel Rapkin, who is a co-executive producer. They just did amazing work, and they got to everybody. There was nobody, and they were relentless. And when they needed me to step in and be relentless, I was relentless as well. James was unable to appear, but was willing to speak to me off the record, and talking to him was not only fascinating but incredibly instructive, and it helped me understand what I was getting to. But you're putting your finger on something that's aside from the kind of nuts and bolts of it all, which is this is very different than a lot of things that I've done, but also very similar in that earning the trust of the subjects was fundamental to our success. We didn't call people up and say, will you come on camera? And they came on camera, and that was that. We called people up and we entered a process with them. And in most cases, the first thing they said was no way. And most of the people you see in the series were not willing to be in the series at the beginning. And then over time, as they got to know us, as they got to realize that we would respect their story in the way that we did, as they got to understand that we were, in fact, looking to explore the complexity and the nuance and the gray, we were able to earn their trust, and they came along. And that's very similar. That's all I really do in my filmmaking.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about gaining trust. Both of you, for the book, for the docuseries. I've seen, not to brag, I've seen the whole series, and there are some sources who express regret, some get very candid, and I was curious what your initial pitch was to them to appear on camera and talk about what they did, what they were involved in. And like you said, it's a process. How did you maintain that trust? Did anybody ever want to leave the project what would you do?
Should I start from I can talk about the book a little bit. I think the pitch was very simple and very honest. I just kind of, I had been covering Juul for 2 or 3 years by the time I started the book, so I think some people at the company kind of knew my byline at least by then. And I just reached out and said, listen, I think there's more to this story than has been told in the media so far. I would love it if you helped me tell that. You can talk about as much or as little as you want to. We can talk completely off the record for as long as you want to, and then see if maybe we want to take some of it on the record later. It was really just approaching them like a human being, like thinking about what their concerns would be and why they might be uncomfortable with this process, as opposed to just going in as a journalist, like trying to get the quote. I just approached them person to person. What complicated this, and I think the same was true for RJ and his team, is that Juul has been sued so many times that a lot of people were either under NDAs or couldn't talk because of legal proceedings. Like, that was kind of a challenge that I had not completely appreciated until I got started on the reporting. But with time, it did happen, and as I would talk to one person and they would kind of understand what I was about, then they would introduce me to a coworker who might want to talk to me. And then that would snowball from there. So the first few months were the hardest, and then once I started kind of getting my foot in the door, it became easier.
RJ, does that sound like your experience, that it would get easier over time?
Jamie and I have never worked together. We work in different fields. She's a journalist, I'm a filmmaker, but we approach our work very similarly. When she said to me in our first meeting that she was concerned about the nuances, and that's what she was scared of, and I think you expressed some real anxiety, in fact, in that first meeting. I was comfortable saying to her, "You've come to the right place," and that I understood why in another team's hands it might have been different, but we offered ourselves as a opportunity and a place for people to have their stories told, and we wanted to tell the full story. We didn't have a preconceived notion. We had a lot of curiosity and a lot of desire to tell the truth and to see things as clearly as possible. And as a result, we were able to get lots and lots of people involved. And you ask about people leaving. Some people said they'd do it, and the night before they'd call us and say, "You know what? I can't. For whatever reason, I'm too scared." Sometimes they were scared. And we love them no matter what. It's a little like, we'd accept it, we'd do our best to get them in the chair, but sometimes it doesn't work out.
I believe you've said before, and this is more for your verite films, that you try to get the camera to stop rolling 10 minutes before they ask you to. You don't want them to get so tired they're demanding, "Hey, turn off the camera, I don't want to do this anymore." But when it comes to a series like this with talking heads, what's your strategy?
Interview until they collapse.
That's true. I can say that that's true. My interview was 6 hours long, and I underestimated how physically difficult it would be. Like, I couldn't talk for the rest of the day. I was exhausted when I left that interview. So I have a lot of respect for the people who participate in your films. It's taxing.
Well, it is. But it's true that when we're shooting verite, we want to get. But it's a different process. There's a whole philosophy of verite, and the most important thing is for the subject not to feel like they're being burdened by the process at all. And then over time they become more and more invested, and as the great D.A. Pennebaker, who was my mentor, and used to say, you'll know you've done your job right when at the end they grab you by the arm and say, "My God, you've got to see this." And when they feel like they're kind of helping you see everything you've wanted to see all along. But an interview-based film with talking heads and investigation, this is a different kind of thing. And we brought our principles to it. We brought our aesthetic. We brought our approach to filmmaking and our belief in storytelling. But it's a different kind of thing.
Jamie, earlier you mentioned how this story, if you go in thinking it's just a story about a company and it's just a story about a about a product, you'll discover that there are all these other angles to it. One that might be a bit tangential, and you can tell me if I'm completely off base, is that it is also a social media story. Social media has a humongous influence on how Juul became such a ubiquitous product. But for the two of you, in terms of your reporting process, Jamie, and in terms of your filmmaking process, how did the social media element influence your job? Were you scouring the hashtag for vaporize day in and day out, finding sources that way? RJ, were you doing the same thing? Jamie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. I actually don't think social media is tangential to the story. I think it forms the story. Like, you'll see this in later episodes, but the way that Juul took off, especially among teenagers and underage users, was very much through social media. So I think maybe the technology wouldn't have even made this possible, but if a product like Juul had come out like 10 or 15 years earlier, I think the story would actually be very different, because you would not have everyone in high school like on Snapchat or on Instagram posting themselves using it. So I think social media is almost a character in this story in some ways. And yes, I was deeply engrossed in Juul Instagram and Juul YouTube. Like all I thought about for an entire year was Juul, so I think I've seen every Juul-related hashtag on social media at this point, yeah.
What's one that wasn't included in this docuseries? I'm putting you on the spot.
There's a lot of content under the hashtag FatClouds. That's a rich text if you look under that hashtag.
Is that the bigger the plume, the better?
Yeah,
okay.
Essentially, yes. And that's something that I love about the series, is that you can show those posts. Like, you can see all of that, whereas I had to capture it in words in the book, and it does not compare. Like,
yeah.
It has to be visual.
I remember reading about it in your book. And eventually, seeing it on screen is a different experience. So RJ, similar question, how did the proliferation of social media in this story affect your filmmaking? You're pulling so much footage.
Yeah, well, it worked forwards and backwards. In terms of forwards, as Jamie says, it is the story. We forget that Instagram was brand new when the Juul came out, and it was the way that the phenomenon spread. Going backwards, we were able to track that. And you'll see in episode 2, we are pretty confident that we bring you the people who began the phenomenon. You know, we don't boast about it in the series, but there's a moment where somebody says, there must have been a night in New York when somebody said to somebody else, what's that? And all of a sudden, what's that thing I saw on Instagram? And all of a sudden, there was a domino effect, and it rippled through the country. And that's really what happened. It was one of the very first Instagram viral phenomena. So we were able to track it backwards and find those early influencers who were involved from the beginning, from moment one.
Yeah. I have to ask then, Jamie, I'll start with you. What did you find the most surprising as you worked on this story? And I remember in the book, it is still an ongoing story. There's all those lawsuits you mentioned. Of those many angles, which one did you not expect to ever encounter?
That's a good question. I think something that I found deeply surprising, which again you'll learn about in a later episode of the series, is that Juul at one point, when the crisis was really kind of at a fever pitch and a ton of teenagers were juuling, they decided that a good approach would be to send people into schools to tell teenagers why they shouldn't vape. And diving into the thought process behind that and how it played out was wild to me, just because I could not conceive of a company deciding that was a good thing to do.
These weren't health experts. These were Juul-affiliated representatives going to school saying, hey, so don't smoke, don't vape, but Juul, safe.
Well, sending their representatives into school is what awakened the sleeping bear of America's mothers. And that's when things really got bad for Juul, when the mothers got involved, right? Because when the mothers get involved, your time has come. And that's what happened in this case. So there you go.
Once you mobilize the moms,
well, they did. You know, a kid comes home and says, the mother says, what happened in school today? And the kid says, somebody came from Juul and said, good news, it's safe for you. And she was like, wait, somebody came from Juul and said what? And, so it went from something that kids were surreptitiously doing that, moms weren't really tracking to a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm. I do want to know, when did you first hear about Juul, and was it in a positive or negative light? I'm curious.
I probably first heard about Juul around 2018, maybe 2017. Mm-hmm. I mean, I live in New York City, and I would see people like on the subway holding one, and then as soon as the doors opened and they got off the train, they would like hit the Juul. Mm-hmm. So I saw it around, but I guess I didn't fully know what it was for a while. Mm-hmm. And then around maybe late 2017, early 2018, it started to really take off among teenagers, and that's when I think I started to become interested in it as a story, mm-hmm. because parents were really concerned and wondering what it was and what it was going to do, and that's kind of when I like really began my deep dive into it.
And RJ, what about you?
Well, I was more conscious of the evolution of vaping devices in general, mm-hmm. as a consumer of marijuana products to some degree. I had one of those giant contraptions that they showed you at the beginning where they filled up the thing. And then I watched while it got better until it was just a little, and I was aware, of course, of the news stories, mm-hmm. of the Juul. Mm-hmm. I was aware of the Evoli breakout. I mean, everybody was. These were huge public health crisis stories. Kids were getting sick all over the country. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know any of the things that I learned from Jamie's reporting, from reading her work, from getting familiar with it. And again, as I did familiarize myself, its larger significance to our society, to our moment, to our various narratives was unmistakable, unavoidable.
I ask this because, again, having seen the rest of the series, I think it's fascinating that you incorporate all these different voices, that the court of public opinion shifted very dramatically depending on what health crisis was happening. Juul got blamed for some things that perhaps it didn't have to be blamed exclusively for. At the same time, even though the product did work, it got in the hands of kids. So as we're nearing the end of our conversation, I would love to hear the two of you talk about what you really hope the public who watches this on Netflix takes away from the series. And again, this is Netflix. There could be kids watching it who had heard about Juul. But let's start there. Jamie, I'll start with you.
I hope people take away, I hope they take away that this story might not be what they thought it was going in. I have people approach me all the time and just say like, either, oh, Juul saved my life, or Juul is evil. And it's very interesting to get both of those, but I hope that people come away perhaps somewhere closer to the middle. And I also think it, as RJ likes to talk about, it's a great story for just looking at the wider problem of like how Silicon Valley move fast and break things culture can so often spin off the rails, or spin off the tracks. I'm mixing metaphors there.
It's okay.
You know what I mean? And the ways in which that can be particularly damaging when health is involved. I think that is a topic that has been discussed a lot already, but probably will continue to be a huge topic moving forward.
I mean, it's damning seeing a story like this. I mean, you've seen a story similar to this with Theranos, right? You see this happen over and over again, and you would hope that somebody's learned something.
Yes.
And RJ, what about you?
We've talked about the things I'm hoping the viewer will take away. First of all, we always want the viewer to have a great viewing experience and to see a great yarn and to be entertained and engaged and laugh and cry and stomp their feet and be on the edge of their chairs and not turn away to something on Hulu. Those are the things we're hoping for. So, but there is a complex theme being explored here, and we want to stimulate a conversation as well. And the conversation is, how does business and public health work together? How does money and public health work together? We know at this moment that there are extraordinary advances being made in cancer research in this country. and public health is being served, and the stakes are incredibly high, and there are billions and billions of dollars involved and at stake, and success is coming. If it's not, and it's already here in parts, and that's amazing. It's great what's happening. Somebody said to me the other day, you know, if you look at America and you're standing and you're looking towards Washington, D.C., you're gonna really wonder about the future and be a little nervous and wonder where this country is going. But if you just turn to your left and look up into the Boston area and see what the scientists are doing, you're gonna think, what an incredible country. What's going on there, the ingenuity, the way that business and science are working together. So there is a path, but where did the path go wrong in this case? Where were the unintended consequences of big tech such that we don't want to repeat them? And that's what we hope that people will take away from it.
Well, I do have to ask that question for both of you, having worked. You thought about Juul for a whole year. You thought about it through the pandemic. You worked on this book. You've been conducting those interviews. Both of you have thought about Juul for so long. What would you say was the critical mistake? Was it prioritizing growth over their good intentions? Was it something else? How would you put it?
Do you want to start or should I?
No, you feel free.
Okay. I think their big mistake was that they did not fully appreciate that they were not selling a tech product, or not only a tech product. If you look at the way they marketed it, it could be interchanged with like an Apple campaign or really any like cool new device. And I talked to people at the company who said, you know, we did not fully understand how complicated it is to sell a nicotine product from a regulatory standpoint, from a public health standpoint, from just a social responsibility standpoint. Like a lot of the people who worked at Juul, especially in the early years, were 20 and 30-somethings who had previously worked at other tech companies. So they came in and they used that same approach, and you know, through no individual fault of any one employee, I think, kind of just used that same playbook and capitalized on all the like cool, edgy, innovative aspects of Juul and sold it that way. And then you can very clearly see a line from that marketing and sales approach to the people who ended up using it, which is largely teenagers, at least for a while. And so I think if they had approached it from a different vantage point and really thought about the fact that this is, at the end of the day, a drug delivery device or a nicotine delivery device, I think maybe the story would have ended up differently.
And RJ, what do you think?
I of course, agree with Jamie. You know, a cigarette is not an Uber. And so just because they can both make you $10 billion doesn't mean they're the same thing. And therein lies all sorts of important things that we have to be thinking about. You know, this is a late-stage capitalism conundrum, and we face many of them in our late-stage capitalist society, and there you go.
Well, to wrap up, I want to hear what you guys might be doing about this story going forward, because as we've established, it's not over. Jamie, are you still chasing your white whale? Or are you working on more stories we should be looking out for? RJ, are you still thinking about Juul and hoping to make more episodes?
I'm always thinking about Juul. I think at this point, the big story, something that I think a lot of people don't actually realize, is that to this day, Juul is not authorized by the FDA. It is in kind of a limbo state at the moment, where the FDA is still deciding if its public health benefit is strong enough that it should be allowed to be sold in the US. And so that's very much, of course, an ongoing story that I'm keeping my eye on. When the FDA will make that decision, I wish I knew, because it's been more than 2 years, I think, that they've been, more than a year that they've been debating. So that's kind of the big thing that I'm watching at this point.
Right, and they did try so hard to expand worldwide, and
Yes.
well, ran into a lot. You'll see. And RJ, any more Juul in your future? That's a strange way to put it.
Jamie's a reporter, and she has a beat, and so her privilege and her burden is that she is the following of this story. I'm a filmmaker, so I get to complete my film and move on to Elton John and Martha Stewart. I'm grateful for that.
I wish I was the Elton John beat reporter.
Come on over.
That sounds more fun.
Yeah.
Well, On that note, Elton John, be reporting. I believe that's all the time we have. Thank you all again for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being here at the Atlantic Festival.
Yeah, October 11th, it drops, all 4 episodes. Tell your friends and family, and thank you all so much for being here. We're grateful.
We're going to go this way.
Thank you again to RJ, Cutler, Jamie Ducharme, and Shirley Li for that insightful conversation. And be sure to check out the full series streaming October 11th on Netflix. And somehow that concludes the first day of the 15th Annual Atlantic Festival. I hope you feel inspired, informed, challenged, and moved after today's programming. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. at Arena Stage for our final idea stage featuring Governor Spencer Cox, Mira Murati from OpenAI, Russell Moore from Christianity Today, and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Please get home safely. Thank you so much for joining us.